So this is just the intro. There will be timestamps below for this if you want to skip. I advise against it since it gives you context to my criticisms. Also, a fair warning, I'm reading off the script and I'm in a bit of pain. I won't go into details about why. So anyway, I've been gaming for around 18 years now at least. I've experienced different games, starting out with old Sonic games, moving on to shooters in my early teens, and finally opening my mind to genres like hack and slash, and that's mainly in my adulthood. I have a good amount of experience in these games, but my favourite type of game is the shooter genre. Jumping from Team Fortress 2 to CSGO to GTA Online to CSGO again, then TF2 again, and then Overwatch. And more recently, Doom Eternal and other single player games. Outer Worlds 2, give a shout out to that. One day my friend introduced me to Deep Rock Galactic, and I was curious because I'd heard of this game for a while, all across the internet. I didn't know anything about it, so I'd give it a try. And well, my first impressions weren't good. Stay tuned, you know, because my thoughts change on that. My mistake was I stuck to solo mode, which is easily the worst way to play the game, and ironically it's one of the first flaws. It's hard to learn anything and it's too slow. The tutorial definitely wasn't the best either. I eventually discovered co-op mode and everything got much better. This reminds me of my Left 4 Dead 2 experience, which, yes, I played a lot back in the day. That was actually my first shooter, I think. Could be wrong. But I enjoyed it, especially in versus mode, which by the way would be cool to see in Deep Rock. I'd spawn as the grab and dwarves in liquid Morkite. It just felt more lively and more dwarven with others around, and that helped me enjoy Deep Rock Galactic. Not only that, it taught me how to play the game. This is something I haven't really seen before, to be honest, and it worked, and that surprised me. It completely prevented me from needing to look up guides until, well, late in game. That leads me to where I am now, having played it non-stop for over 3 months now, and no sign of stopping. I'm officially a greybeard, I think. I have 400 plus hours in the game. Everyone is promoted to God 3 years of writing this. And this leads me to this video today, and that's the end of the intro. So some disclaimers before we start. My criticisms are solely based on the experience. I've only ever enjoyed casual games, and Deep Rock Galactic is for the most part casual, except at higher difficulties. I've never been a challenge gamer, as I've had a fear of failure since childhood, and never been able to get over that. That said, I'm also on the autism spectrum, which has heightened my awareness, as well as my surroundings. It applies to real life and games. It helped me learn what I disliked about Deep Rock Galactic, as well as enhance what I liked about it. And Deep Rock Galactic is definitely a great game. It's just a long way to go before I can consider it one of my favourite games of all time. These criticisms are there to spark discussion in the community and developers. When I observe greenbeards and greybeards, for example, in this gaming sphere, I notice mistakes on both and even strange events that I witness. And we all seen a greenbeard, I think, shoot a Steve before. Yeah, nothing beats that. But this could have been avoided, to be honest, because it's kind of bad for the greenbeard, I guess. To make this simple, I'm going to number the criticisms starting from 1. There's no ranking system, just to be clear. And I'll count up from each time. I have to have 1. I'm also going to try and order the criticisms from start to finish of the gameplay, from loading up to mission success. Also, I'm assuming everyone watching this has an understanding of Deep Rock Galactic's mechanics and systems. If you don't, you might not understand it. The first thing, it starts on the space rig. So the first problem and criticism I have, I don't know what you call these, this is about our offices or our rooms, whatever they are. These feel empty, I've got to admit it. I'm really surprised there is no customization for them. There's just the same layout, maybe a different layout for each room, but I mean, you only see that in co-op. Maybe it's a technical quandary, I don't know, but it would be nice to have some form of customization for all these rooms. Plus it would give use for some other things I'm about to bring up. Second problem, Perk Points. Maybe poking a dead horse at this point, but we seriously need a use for additional perks. My solution is to add a new skill tree and either extra perks or matrix cores. A limited amount, by the way. And maybe player housing items, something along those lines. It's not up for me to decide, but it just would be neat to have a use for perk points. Third issue, Phazyonite. I just remembered this. Assuming you have every cosmetic, you need some way to sell Phazyonite, or at least convert it into something. I can't use Fancy Pants currency for anything at the moment, it's just sitting there. Ideally you could remove the mineral cost from cosmetics to prioritise Phazyonite, otherwise there just isn't any point in it. Number 4, promotions are weird. I've never seen a game where you have to pay in currency to level up. It's just really weird, and admittedly I think this should be reworked, because I don't know if it's even a lore relevant thing. It just seems backwards. It seems like you should be paid. And then the point about removing mineral costs from the shop would be invalid, although you still need to rework Phazyonite. Number 5, remove Dark Morkite drink from Non-Morkite missions. I have no idea why this is a thing. I can order Dark Morkite on an egg hunt. Okay then. Imagine if it worked for on-site refining by speeding up the pilot construction, or maybe the amount of Morkite you extract. This would be cool, by the way. But I really don't see the point of this drink, as it only affects Morkite missions. Well, there's only one Morkite mission, you get the point. The next category is class balancing. And as I said with the numbering, it just counts up, so we're at number 6 now. Number 6 is Scout's Kit. I get Scout as a second mule, and collecting resources and stuff, but I really don't enjoy this gun gameplay at all. The deep core UK2 runs out of ammo so quickly, it becomes unusable for any mission. The M100 Classic feels clunky to use, requiring gimmicky loadouts to be effective, also not having enough ammo, but it is ultimately the strongest weapon that Scout has. Also the crosshairs need to be customizable, but I'll talk about that later. And then there's the Drac 25, which is good, but the overclocks are terrible. It doesn't work. The secondaries all have their own issues. Shotgun doesn't have enough ammo, SMGs are okay but run out too quick, and I haven't even used the Bolt Shark since I was a Greenbeard, not Graveyard. But I'm gonna guess it has its own issues, having not used it. The kit for Scout always felt underwhelming. The range for the grappling hook isn't ideal either. I think that needs increasing because of the way the cave generation has changed recently. Like it's become massive and quite tedious to navigate. The number 7 issue is elements. Not class specific, though it can be. I really don't like how Cryo and Fire currently work. If they both used in one mission, it feels out of place and simply doesn't work, because you have to use either one or the other. But in all situations, Fire is just a rational choice, because Cryo melts. That and the build up for Cryo makes no sense. I think it makes sense to add a reaction system a bit like how other games have it. I think the idea is to allow them to coexist together. Turn ice into water, which allows the enemy to take 2 times more damage, burn slightly, and slows them down slightly. This way, it's like the best of both worlds. Number 8 is maining. I'm gonna admit it, maining is a big issue. I don't understand why players do it, and I think it may be disruptive as a concept. I understand why people might do it, because they just want to learn a class, but I don't think that's really helpful for a team, to be honest. I think there needs to be a change to encourage players to play other classes. One idea I had is actually genius, and will work. They still award double the gold on successful missions for playing a class you haven't played in 3 missions. This way you can get the bonus and non-stop and play each class equally. As someone who doesn't have much direction in the game as to who I play, this can be beneficial to me, of course. Alternatively, make it more missions in between. But the point there is it encourages gameplay outside of your comfort zone for a good reward, and it makes a lot more sense when you think about it. I think it should also be like a button press at the end of the mission, like on the outro screen where you can click to double the gold, or go to the class terminal in your office to claim double gold off the last mission. I think the latter would be better here because it takes into account disconnect issues and such. Meaning, if you had F4 or F4 and not take it, then you can still go back and get it. Or if you just crash at the end, something like that. The number 9 issue, for some reason, this is another category, but I didn't put it as that. Enemy design. The first thing is Glyphid sound design. Apparently, this used to be worse back in the day. I can't confirm that, but I honestly can't tell, based on what other people said, because it feels equally as bad. I do not like that I can't tell when an enemy is behind me, unless it's an exploder. In higher hazard levels I've been screwed by this so much. Something needs to change about the sound design, especially in a close proximity. Number 10 issue is cave leeches need to be gotten more obvious. As much as they're fun, I don't like that they require a scout to see them beforehand, because of the scout's flare gun lighting everything up on the ceiling, of course. It becomes really hard to predict when there's a leech up there. I've been caught off guard by this in multiple missions. I look up, see nothing, run on onto where I looked for a leech, and I had no time to react, and there was a leech there, which also might play into the sound design thing. Number 11 is Mactera Tridrills versus Drillers. I don't know why I wrote this, but I'll just say it anyway. I think it would make sense if you could shoot the wings or something, or add another weak point that's friendly to drillers, I guess. The reason this is an issue is because the driller doesn't have a good choice of weapons for dealing with Mactera. I use the cooking appliance gun, whatever it's called. There's no way to hit the weak points. It becomes frustrating because it does little to no damage versus tridrills and bundles. And in a higher hazard level, this is the difference between life and death pretty much. Drillers are basically paperweight here, and I could be wrong, but with the way I've played, I can't find effective ways of dealing with them as a driller. So something needs to change, obviously. The next category is server browser. I'll just call it optimizations to the server browser. Number 12 is fix the errors. This is easily the worst thing about Galactic, with its second issue being in-game. The errors when joining a server is frustrating because it reloads the game. It wouldn't be so bad if it didn't reload the fucking game, but it does. I must be the only one whose server jumps to fill counts because this is so damn frustrating. Seriously, this needs patching right away. Number 13 issue is there needs to be a report button. I think there needs to be moderation to an extent, and maybe a block button, because the amount of racism, xenophobia and homophobia I've seen in this game is, well, minimal, but it exists, and I still think that's an issue. And you know, people still use like the RA word, I'll shorten it as. That's the thing though, like, people use games to escape. And as much as we kind of need to bring attention to these issues, I think when people use them in bad faith or like jokingly, it's not good. We don't want these people in the game, obviously. I'm sure the developers don't either. The offenders I've observed could use it in the description of a server or in-game chat. It needs to be addressed at some point. So the next category is missions. Industrial sabotage. Alright, the cone-sized elephant in the room needs to be addressed. Whilst this is easily the worst type of mission in the game, and escort duty is much better by the way, trust me, it's the most boring and the most bland. And I think it's probably one of the worst I've ever played in a game, of any game mode type, but that comes down to the objectives you get. Call down a hacking ball 2 times and beat the boss. That's it. And the journey often doesn't really mean anything either. Like, exploring caves is good, but you're not really exploring a cave, to be honest. You're just beating down the boss and fighting a horde. Like, there's no moving around. It just gets boring. But it'd be neat if you get a type of mission where, say, we have to chase the rival technology around the caves and steal its data, or say disable the primary turrets. Basically do something that rule-wise impacts the boss at the end. Maybe we can disable the annoying tentacles or the patrol bolts or the ceiling bolts. Also that would add an RPG element, and maybe it's an idea for an optional objective actually. But if we could choose something at the start, which is well, meant to be an RPG element, it would be pretty cool. Like, you tackle it one way, because Galactic for some reason only has enough for one. Then we get a drop at the start which allows us to choose which path to take. This could make it my favourite mission in the game. Also the boss just needs different shapes and sizes I think. Maybe a giant tentacle is one, or a plague infested machine. To go with the theme of Plaguefall. Next category is caves. At number 15 is Magma Core. Enough said. At number 16, drop pod placement. I think the biggest screw over in any mission other than weird placements of objects is the drop pod placement. It's different when you're not against the clock, but it's different when you are. If you're a gunner with 0 ammo attempting to escape no zip lines and the drop pod spawns 60 meters in the air, you're basically screwed. There's no way out, and the mission is compromised because of that. And imagine if it's like hazard 3 or above, the enemies are still spawning around you. You can't even dig up. This definitely needs rework, needs a change even. Because this could benefit so many players, and especially the Greenbeards, who I think are no doubt confused by it. Number 17 is secondary objective placement is still a challenge sometimes. I still find these objectives inside terrain. This is most likely a bug, but it's easily one of the most annoying. It definitely needs to be addressed. And I think maybe just more needs to spawn as well, if that can't be fixed. And surprisingly, even what we've got now, we can't find all the secondary objectives. That's a bit crazy to think about, really. The next category is mission gameplay. Probably the more controversial stuff. Number 18 is Hazard 5 requires meta loadouts. As I said, I'm not a challenge gamer, so I could be wrong here. But I really don't enjoy the game when it requires me to play a specific way. I've had problems surviving in Hazard 5s as well as conserving ammo. It's busted because you really can't do much there. If you want to use, say, Engineer's SMG in a Hazard 5, you may as well quit whilst ahead because the ammo will be gone in the first wave. The first hold. It does tie into the class balancing issue to an extent, but come on, something needs to change here. Number 19 is being downed. As much as it's entertaining to spam the call for help voice lines, the personal favourite being, I can't feel my beard, help. I don't like the lack of gameplay when being downed. I think this is the biggest crutch, and I have a lot to say on this. And if I play Hazard 5 and I get downed by a glitch or a bug, pun intended, I can't do anything, especially in a swarm. The problem here is that I'm just useless. I can't do anything until other teammates finish the swarm, and that's often 2 minutes later. This is annoying because ideally we should be allowed to fire our weapon during its time. When a game has downtime, it isn't gameplay. This is just the reality of game design. If Ghost Ship games reworked the downing system into allowing a mini pistol that doesn't do as much damage as your main weapons, then that would be better than nothing. Even if it was just a perk, it would help so much with the gameplay. I think it should just be a permanent gameplay thing. Being downed isn't fun, and it's worse when you're far away or seeing a team go down one by one. I actually can't tell you the amount of times that I've joined certain missions and been placed in the middle of a tyrant weed, and everyone's down. It's like the craziest shit ever, and you can't do anything. Neither can they. So you just have to ask, like, what can you do here? Obviously the fundamental issue is that being downed is the issue. Obviously you can't get people gun mode, otherwise it just ruins the game in some way. Number 20, enemies still hit through walls. Probably a bug, but it's been there for months, and I've no idea what causes it. From what I can tell, it's to do with how enemies are attracted to the hitboxes of players and not checking line of sight. It seems a simple coding fix might fix it. If enemies can detect the line of sight of dwarves, then that's an easy fix for sure. This issue is frustrating for multiple reasons. It leaves you vulnerable and disrupts gameplay unfairly. Also, just being completely honest here, I think it's probably one of the most lazy designs I've ever seen for a hitbox in a PvE game. But you don't even get this in Left 4 Dead 2, I don't think. Like, enemies hit the door, I don't think they even hit you. Issue number 21, Molly is in the way. Not sure what it is, but for some reason Molly will follow you during swarms and even when allies are down. And sometimes they'll disrupt the arrive and kill the player because of that. I think this issue needs fixing because it can cost missions at the end of the day. It's subjective as to whether it's funny, as most things are, but there needs to be 2 different modes for Molly, I think, as an equality of life feature. There should be follow and then stay, so you can hold C for follow and press C to stay. It's pretty simple really. And Molly will just move when you're about like 30 meters away, I guess. And number 22, many Mules are needed, ? This should be obvious, but why is there no way to use an actual mini mule? I like the idea of there being a mini mule who you can deposit a small amount of minerals into, adding to the resources. I think this would be useful to allow players to deliver minerals to the mule without having to be near Molly, or have to call Molly from halfway across the map. Plus it gives a lore reason, right? Maybe have it as a perk. As much as I don't want to encourage something like going off to do the mission solo, I think this is necessary at this point, since we constantly fight over the mule. This would also help on missions where there isn't a mule. which is why I initially suggested it as a perk. It's debatable whether you can deposit like main objective things like quarks or maybe jaders, but I guess it should count as like one main objective thing, and then the rest could be minerals, and jaders are included in that, of course, in your pals. It would be cool to see mini meals. Number 23 is disconnect issues. Annoying. I've never seen a game have a more annoying disconnect issue than others. Maybe second to Source Engine games. This is easily one of the most annoying. Simply put, if you lag or the host lags, it will either disconnect you or jump you into the future without any indication of what's happened, and you'll be insta-downed in that case. The game should detect lag, by the way. The behaviours I've observed from lagging teammates makes it obvious when they're lagging. They jump around or get stuck in an animation. But I think the worst thing is when you're near the end of a mission and something goes wrong. Like the host disconnects or you lag. You can no longer reconnect. And as far as I know, you don't get the rewards from that mission when you disconnect. It sucks. Issue 24 is no dedicated servers. I think the biggest way to prevent disconnect issues is to allow for a dedicated server hosting, as in Ghost Ship Gamers host their own servers. It would be neat to have some for those who can't host locally. Plus it would be good for if those servers allow for technical issue protection such as random disconnects or power outages when the mission remains active and doesn't count as failure or close if a technical issue arose. But maybe cap that to 10 minutes, so obviously servers could be free. So timeouts will close the server and open it to another player. I don't know if I said that right. Yeah, so it times out after 10 minutes of no one in the lobby and allows it for another player to host. Just the way it usually works, I think. This way, those really unreliable local servers won't be such a big problem, and the host isn't the one who is relied on. In fact, other players are in it. Maybe there just shouldn't be a host at all, just the server itself. But sort of 24.5 here, I guess. Number 25. Having 4 dwarves doesn't feel interesting after a certain point. Unless it's a class stack, which I've done before a lot, and is fun. But 4 dwarves is kind of been there, done that. I think what the game needs is more than 4 dwarves, like a mode which allows multiple dwarves, or maybe a versus mode. We all know that's probably black magic. Yes, I know there's like a mod for more than 4 dwarves, but I rarely see that in game. But it would be nice to see it officially, because it would be interesting. And that could maybe be like deep dive style missions where one group can go off and do one set of objectives, and the other could go do another. It would be chaos. And, you know, it'd be funny because you can do things like leave the Dreadnought to the Retta. Why not? It sounds like chaos. It sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. It has to happen, the idea is too exciting, to be honest. Or maybe a Dreadnought and Industrial Sabotage, once you take up the Caretaker. Mission number 26. Mission time needs to be reduced or introduced quickly. I have to admit, one of the things that's really off-putting about Galactic is the fact that missions take anywhere from 7 to 40 minutes. This is such a big amount of time, and I feel that negatively impacts the game overall, especially when the reward for failure is basically 10% of what you earned, which sucks. Also, please change that. It's not necessary, but it would help. And you failed the mission because of glitches. Like, this isn't fair. It should be everything you mind, and the reward for completing it should stay as is, which is a bonus, increasing the amount that you mined for. The point is, missions take too long, and would benefit from a mini version, like say half the time of an escort duty, or maybe just to the Hearthstone, or maybe half the time for salvage missions where you do the sitting in the pool, I forgot what it's called, for half the time, and job takes half the time, things like that. And should allow you to complete assignments for them too. But additional thing of script here is I came to Galactic after Overwatch 2 came out, because Overwatch 2 is absolute shite. And the thing that I miss about Overwatch is the quick play. I just grew up for a 10-minute game and that's it. It's no biggie, although sometimes it'll go longer because of maps like getting the whole game mode, I mean. But I miss that sort of thing because it was quick. Games didn't even have to take 10 minutes, it could be 5 minutes. And that's the thing about it. And I think Galactic would benefit from that. Just a quick game mode, like quick 10-minute mission. Obviously the rewards don't have to be big, but what's the point, really? Quick missions if you don't have the time. So number 27 is shown as the last of the gameplay that I can remember, is the Casualty Summary. I hate how games have this habit of withholding crucial information from you. It's easily a pet peeve of mine, but it's preventable, and it's one thing that could help so many players in any game. Just add a summary of what caused player deaths, or downs, whatever you call them. When I'm in Indie Rock Galactic and I'm suddenly downed, I want to know what I was downed by, especially if I'm confused by what it is exactly. So I know what to look out for next time and learn from it. The problem is I don't learn anything, because the game doesn't tell me why I was down. And here I am, down in a Hazard 5 watching everyone deal with the Horde whilst I'm still trying to figure out how I died. It's necessary at this point if you want new players to tackle Hazard 5s. In Industrial Sabotage, I still haven't figured out why I take damage randomly, but there seems to be this issue where I just take damage from random sources, and again there's no indicator of what it is, so I never know what killed me. And there's so much going on in it that I don't know. But there can be so much going on in me. The next category, and the only thing in this category, achievements, and this is number 28. I don't like the prospect that some achievements can only be done one way, rather than multiple. Sure, something like not calling a resupply board or being downed are easy, except for the Hazard 5 one, but something like scoring 3000 points in barrel kick all the barrels into the drop pod, is a bit absurd, especially given there is again only one way to do it. It sucks. I have to say, of all games I've played, Deep Rock may have one of the worst achievement designs I've ever seen, not in this aspect anyway. They're just challenging for the sake of challenging, which is immediately an accessibility issue. It's kind of like saying, oh, you don't have good timings, well fuck you then, but you have this inherent problem and you can't do it, the thing that the achievement asks you, because of this inherent problem you have. Ideally it should be just something simple like kick 100 barrels or something like that. It's simple and straightforward and can be done at any pace, at any time. And it's for people who want to do the achievements, but I don't know. With the kicking the barrels into the drop pod thing, I'd rather it just not exist. Same with making the barrels line up with a seat. Just to mention, a couple of specific achievements are not good either. You can make achievements fun or funny in concept, like some already are, but just don't rely on skill, the immediate failure for achievement making. Just when there's a failure state, as I put it, it's not really good. Next category is quality of life. So number 29, please explain hazard levels. On the deep dives too. I think there's a big problem with the game that I see now, where greenbeers end up joining hazard 5s and end up not performing well. They don't know how it works and can't adjust their gameplay to that. When I first did a hazard 4, I went down plenty of times, and even my greybeard friend who was with me then went down a lot because of my mistakes. It's essentially a domino effect like in hazard 5. So what needs to happen is the mechanics need explaining on the screen, and maybe we should lock players out of it until they've promoted all the dwarves at least once. And also it means that they have upgrades and overclocks by that point. So it has other benefits. Issue number 30 is there's no testing room. I want to try new loadouts, but we really need a dedicated testing room for those. Like maybe a simulator that's hooked up to the loadout menu where we can pick out things, but spawning a place right away to use the loadout and test it out on like Glyphids and stuff. And also change the loadouts on the spot. There's a lot of quirks to work out with that, and I know a testing room does exist, but I have no idea how to access it. Law-wise, you can make it a simulation. That's why I suggested it. Number 31 is heat marker on your gun. Or on the crosshair, I mean, fuck, what gun? I already have that. I can't use a mod for this, but damn, it needs a place in the actual game. It's so useful. It prevents overheats and keeps your eyes on the action. Number 32, we need an unlock tracker for cargo crates, matrix cores, etc. I have a hard time telling when I've collected everything. How do I track it? How much have I got to go? Number 33, Crosshair Customisation. I briefly mentioned this above, but I think I can elaborate further. It needs to exist for accessibility reasons. As a scout, I struggle to use the M100 because of its wacky plus on Crosshair with animations. It distracts me and makes it hard to place my crosshair on enemies. I'm used to having a dot for precise weapons and shooters, so that's why I kind of want one. So the last category and the final thing is additional thing. It's not really anything beneficial to the game necessarily, but I think it could possibly be good. It's number 34, but we need colour customization with dwarves and weapons. As in an option you unlock where either after you collected everything, you unlock it and you get to choose any colour you want and change it whenever you want for each loadout. Or maybe you just get it as a drop, but that makes no sense, to be honest, because to be honest it seems like a good idea that you can wear like your own sort of colours. Like I want to be like pansexual pride, so I'll do blue, pink, yellow and put out my character handguns. It makes sense really. There's no reason not to have it. Anyway, that's the end of the criticisms. Like, it's a lot to go through and my throat's starting to hurt. 40 minutes of recording, fucking hell. I might cut it down, I don't know. I'm a bit lazy in that aspect because I'm really not good at editing. That's all I can list on the top of my head. I get that not everything can be added, it's understandable, but I hope the team can address some of these at some point, as I feel it's kind of necessary to patch some of the really shitty stuff in the game. You know, the top two issues for me are the disconnects and the downing. Also the server errors, so 3 issues. But I think, ignoring those, I think it could be one of my favourite games of all time. Easily. You know, I've never really found a good multiplayer game, to be honest. I don't even know if there's anything on my list like that, other than Genshin Impact. Yeah, there's still a lot of things to go, you know. A lot of fixes, a lot of additions that are needed. I definitely do look forward to future updates, especially of the 5th anniversary I think coming up soon. And I've seen some of the leaks for that, or one leak. It looks amazing. I definitely look forward to it. And well, of course, keep up the great work if you're listening to this Ghost Ship games. But the only reason I've started playing this game is because it's just really good. You know, I haven't found many games that have piqued my interest as much as this.